So in today's video we are going to discuss about the mandible or the lower jaw. Okay. Now the name is derived from the Latin word mandibula, which means the lower jaw itself. Alright. So it is a horseshoe shaped bone. Okay. It is the shape of a horseshoe. Now the mandible is derived from the first pharyngeal arch. Okay. It's derived from the first pharyngeal arch. If you have studied embryology well, you will know what it's meant by the first pharyngeal arch. It develops from the first pharyngeal arch. Okay. Now it lodges the teeth of the lower jaw. Alright. Now coming to the body. So this is called the body of the mandible. And when we see the posterior part of the body, you can see there is projecting the ramus of the mandible. So this is the ramus. So when we say when we are referring to both of the ramus, we call it the rami. So it has a pair of rami. Now it is projecting upwards from the posterior ends of the body. Now the rami provides attachment to the muscles of mastication. Alright. Now coming to the body of the mandible. Alright, so it has an outer and inner surfaces. So this is the outer, this is the inner surface of the body, and it has an upper border and a lower border. Alright, so this is the upper border and this is the lower border. Now talking about the outer surface, so first we are gonna talk about the symphysis menti. Now symphysis menti is the line at which the right and left halves. Alright, now if we hold it in anatomical position, so this is the right half of the mandible and this is the left half of the mandible. Alright, so actually we can say that symphysis menti is the point, the junction, the median junction when the right and the left half of the mandibles meet each other. Alright, so it is marked by a faint ridge. You can appreciate this. There is a faint ridge. Alright, I hope it's clear. There is a faint ridge. Now coming to the mental protuberance, you can see this triangular kind of protuberance in front of the body. Just in the median plane of the symphysis menti. See, there is a mental protuberance. Now the word mentum means chin. Alright, the mentum refers to chin. It is a median triangular projecting area in the lower part of the midline. Now the inferolateral angles of the protuberance form the mental tubercles. Now what do we mean by the inferolateral angles? Inferolateral angle means just a side to it. So inferiorly, see, this is the mental protuberance. Now inferior to it and lateral to it, here comes two elevations, which is called the mental tubercles. Now let's come to the mental foramen. Alright, now this is the mental foramen. You can see it has a pair of mental foramens. There is a pair of mental foramen. Now the mental nerve and vessels pass through this foramen. Right. Now one important anatomical landmark to locate the mental foramen is that it is present just in the interval between the two premolar teeth. Okay, in the interval between the premolar teeth, the mental foramen can be located. So that is one thing about it. Now if you look carefully, see, there is an oblique line. See, there is an oblique line. It is a sharp continuation of the anterior body of the anterior border of the ramus of the mandible. See this oblique line. Can you see it? See, this is. So this is the anterior body of the ramus. When I will come to the ramus, I will tell you about it. So this is the anterior border of the ramus. So there is a oblique line passing. Its origin is from this symphysis menti. Now it goes posteriorly, above the mental foramen, and it's continued till the anterior border of the ramus of the mandible. Alright, so this is the oblique line. Now it runs downwards and forwards towards the mental tubercles. Now if we begin it from here, so if we say, I mean from the anterior border of the ramus, so it is continuing and running downwards and forwards towards the mental tubercles. So it's coming towards the mental tubercles. Now the incisive fossa. So you can see just below the sockets of the incisor teeth of the lower jaw, you can see there are two fossas on either side of the symphysis menti. You can see this is called the incisive fossa. Okay, it just lies below the incisor teeth. Now the inner surface. Now coming to the inner surface of the body of the mandible. Now the mylohyoid line is a prominent ridge that runs obliquely downwards. Okay, on either side of the body of the mandible, it runs obliquely downwards and forwards below the third molar tooth. Okay, so it's running below the third molar tooth to the median area below the genial tubercles. So this is the region of the genial tubercles. Alright, now below the mylohyoid line, okay, the surface is slightly hollowed out to form the submandibular fossa, which lodges the submandibular gland. So below the mylohyoid line, we can appreciate this, I mean hollowed out area called the submandibular fossa, which will lodge the submandibular gland. And just above the mylohyoid line, okay, and above the mylohyoid line there is a sublingual fossa. See, here is a sublingual fossa. So the sublingual fossa in which the sublingual gland will lodge actually. So you can appreciate this, that below the mylohyoid line there will be the submandibular fossa in which the submandibular gland will lodge, and above the mylohyoid line will be the sublingual fossa in which the sublingual gland lies. Now the posterior surface of the symphysis menti. So this was the symphysis menti on the anterior surface. So in the posterior surface of the symphysis menti, so there is four small elevations. You can see two above and two below. Okay. Now the above elevations are called the superior genial tubercles, and the lower elevations are called the inferior genial tubercles. I hope you can see it clearly. See, these are the superior genial tubercles and these are the inferior genial tubercles. Alright, so the genial tubercles we can see at the posterior surface of the symphysis menti. Now coming to the mylohyoid groove, you can see there is a mylohyoid groove present on the ramus, the posterior surface of the ramus. So it extends onto the body below the posterior end of the mylohyoid line. So this was the posterior end of the mylohyoid line. Okay, so it's extending down on the body. So these are the two mylohyoid grooves. Okay, now the upper or the alveolar border bears the sockets of the teeth. Okay, and the lower border of the mandible is also called the base. Now if we see the lower border very clearly, you can appreciate that near the middle line of the lower border, the base shows an oval depression called the digastric fossa. Okay, because it will give attachment to the digastric muscles. I will talk about it in the attachment video, but this was pretty much about the body. Now we'll come to the ramus. Okay, now the ramus is quadrilateral in shape and has two surfaces. Alright, now talking about the ramus of the mandible, so this is quadrilateral in shape. Okay, it's more or less a quadrilateral in shape. Now it has two surfaces, the lateral surface and the medial surface. Same for this side, this is the lateral surface and this is the medial surface. Now it has four borders: the upper border, the lower border, the anterior border, and the posterior border. Okay, the upper border, the lower border, the anterior, and the posterior border. Now there are two important processes in the upper border. You can see this is the coronoid process and this is the condyloid process. Okay, so this is the coronoid process and this is the condyloid process. Now the condyloid process forms, it's one of the main bony structure to form the TMJ or the temporomandibular joint. Alright. Now talking about the lateral surface of the ramus, it is flat and bears a number of oblique ridges. So if you see it clearly, the number of oblique ridges. Alright. So this was the lateral surface. Now the medial surface presents the following. See the medial surface of the ramus. Now there is a mandibular foramen. Okay, it lies little above the center of, little above the center of ramus. So if we call this as the center, now it lies little above the center of ramus. Now at the level of the occlusal surfaces of the teeth, okay, see this is the occlusal surface of the teeth and it lies pretty much at the same level. Alright, now it leads to the mandibular canal anteriorly. It will lead to the mandibular canal which descends into the body. Now it moves anteriorly, the mandibular canal, and it will descend into the body of the mandible and opens in the mental foramen. Okay, and opens at the mental foramen. So this was about the mandibular foramen. Now the anterior margin of the mandibular foramen is marked by a sharp, you can see here, see there is a sharp, now I hope the camera is able to focus it properly. So there is a sharp kind of elevation, there is a sharp projection kind of thing. Okay, it's a sharp tongue-like projection which is called the lingula. Now the lingula is directed towards the head of the condyloid process. So this is the head of the condyloid process of the mandible. So it's directed towards the head of the condyloid process of the mandible. Alright. Now the mylohyoid groove begins just below the mandibular foramen. I already told you that you can say just parallel to the posterior end of the mylohyoid line, as well as you can say just below the mandibular foramen, and runs downwards and forwards to be gradually lost over the submandibular fossa. Now it disappears around the submandibular fossa. Okay, so this was about the ramus. Now the upper border of ramus is thin and is curved downwards, forming the mandibular notch. You can see the upper border of ramus, it is thin and curved. Okay, it forms the mandibular notch. Now the lower border is the backward continuation of the base of the mandible. So this was the base of the mandible. Okay, now the lower border is the backward continuation of the base of the mandible. Posteriorly, it ends by becoming continuous with the posterior border of the angle of the mandible. See, this is the angle of the mandible. Okay, and this is the posterior border of it. Okay. Now you can say the anterior border of the ramus is thin and the posterior border is pretty much thicker. Alright. Now coming to the coronoid process. The coronoid process is a flattened triangular upward projection from the anterosuperior part of the ramus. So this is the anterior and this is superior. So this is the anterosuperior part of the ramus. Okay. Now its anterior border is continuous with the anterior border of the ramus. The posterior border bounds the mandibular notch. Okay. Now coming to the condylite process. The condylite process in Latin it means knuckle like. Okay, I think you know what's a knuckle. It's a weapon kind of thing. Now the condylite process is a strong upward projection from the posterior superior part of the ramus. So which is the posterior superior part of the ramus? So this is the superior, this is the posterior. So this will be called as the posterior superior part of the ramus. Now its upper end is expanded from side to side. You can appreciate that it's expanded from side to side. Okay, to form the head of the condylite process. This is the head of the condylite process. Now the head is covered with fibrocartilage and articulates with the temporal bone. So if I bring here the skull, you see that. See. So this is the temporal bone. It's articulating with the temporal bone. I guess you can appreciate this. See the point of articulation. So this is how it articulates with the temporal bone. Now there is a constriction below the head. See, this was the head of the condylar process. So below this constriction is called as the neck of the condylar process. Okay. Now its anterior surface presents a depression called the pterygoid fossa. So this is called the pterygoid fossa. Okay. Let's come to the attachment and relations of the mandible. Now the oblique line on the lateral side of the body gives origin to the buccinator. See this is the oblique line. Okay. So there was the oblique line on the lateral side of the body of the mandible. So just here you can see. Alright, just in this area there will be attachment, the origin of the buccinator. Okay, far forwards as the anterior border of the first molar tooth. So if here is the socket of the first molar tooth, so it will move far forwards as the anterior border of the first molar tooth. Now in front of this origin, just here, okay, in front of this origin, the depressor labii inferioris muscle is, the attachment of the depressor labii inferioris muscle will be there, and below to it will be depressor anguli oris. Okay, now it arises from the oblique line below the mental foramen. There are two important muscles. Once again I am repeating, the depressor labii inferioris and below to it the depressor anguli oris. Now you need to remember that it arises from the oblique line below the mental foramen. So this is the mental foramen, it will arise below to it. Now the incisive fossa gives origin to the mentalis and mental slips of the orbicularis oris. Now you know the orbicularis oris, it surrounds the lip muscles, the lip area. Now it will give origin to the mentalis and the mental slips of the orbicularis oris, the incisive fossa. Alright. Now the parts of both the interior and outer surface just below the alveolar margin are covered by the mucous membrane of the mouth. So this area is generally covered by the mucous membrane of the mouth. Now coming to the mylohyoid line, it gives origin to the mylohyoid muscle. You can appreciate that this is the mylohyoid line. It gives origin to the mylohyoid muscle. Okay, so over here will be the mylohyoid muscle. So this is the mylohyoid line, here will be the mylohyoid muscle on either side. Now coming to the posterior end of the mylohyoid line. Okay, now the posterior end of the mylohyoid line, so this is the posterior end of the mylohyoid line. It gives, now an important constrictor muscle of the pharynx arises. That is the superior constrictor muscle of the pharynx. Okay, now it arises from an area just above the posterior end of the mylohyoid line, from here. Okay, so here is the superior constrictor muscle of the pharynx. Now the pterygomandibular raphe. Okay, now the pterygomandibular raphe, it's just present aside to this superior constrictor muscle over here. Okay, so I guess you can see it clearly. So this is the pterygomandibular raphe. Now it is attached immediately behind the third molar tooth in continuation with the origin of superior constrictor. I told you that superior constrictor also arises above this mylohyoid line. Okay, now it is attached side by side to it. Now the upper genial tubercles. So I hope that you know about the genial tubercles. See, these were the upper genial tubercles. So that was called the superior genial tubercle, and this was the inferior genial tubercles. Now the upper genial tubercles gives origin to the genioglossus. Okay, now I will give you a trick to learn this. See, the superior genial tubercles give origin to the genioglossus. Now what do you mean by genioglossus? Glossus is related to tongue, remember it. Okay, now genioglossus, because it's attached to the genial tubercles, so genioglossus, and above it will be lying the tongue, and below is the inferior or the lower tubercles. Now this will give attachment to the geniohyoid muscle. So you know that in the lower part of the mandible, this hyoid bone will be present somewhere over here. So it will give attachment to the geniohyoid muscle. Okay. Coming to the lower border, mean the base of the mandible, you can appreciate the, I told you that there is a oval depression just in this medial plane, the midline of the lower border. Here there is a oval depression. So here there is attachment of the anterior belly of the digastric muscle. Okay, the anterior belly of the digastric muscle. Now the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia, it's present throughout this lower border. Okay, now it's present throughout the whole length of the lower border. So that is the deep cervical fascia. Now let's go to this, the anterior side of the lower border over here. See, here will be the attachment of the platysma. Okay, the platysma is also attached to the lower border, the anterior side. So the attachment of the platysma. Now the whole of the lateral surface of the ramus, except the posterior superior part, provides insertion to the masseter muscle. So I have told you that this lateral surface of the ramus, majorly the muscles of mastication are present. Okay, now this whole area is covered by the masseter muscle except the posterior superior part. Okay, here will be the fibrocartilage and some ligaments which form an important constituent of the temporomandibular joint. Now the posterior superior part of the lateral surface is covered by the parotid gland. So the parotid gland just covers the posterior superior part of the mandible like this. Okay, like this, it just covers it. Okay, the posterior superior part is just covered by the parotid gland. Now coming to the inner surface, so I told you this, lateral to the, parallel to the posterior most part of the this mylohyoid line, it is present a tongue-like projection called a lingula. Now this lingula gives attachment to the spinomandibular ligament. Okay, now this lingula on either side gives attachment to the spinomandibular ligament. Alright, now the medial pterygoid muscle is inserted on the medial surface of the ramus. So this is the medial surface of the ramus. Now the medial pterygoid is present generally in this area. Alright, so you can see there are some ridges developed due to the torsion of the muscle contraction, relaxation. So this oblique ridges are found. Here also it's present. Now the medial pterygoid is inserted on the medial surface of the ramus. And it will see the area is a bit rough due to the torsion of the muscles. Okay, below the mylohyoid groove. So that is done. Now let's come to the temporalis muscle. Okay, now the temporalis muscle is basically will be present on the outer surface, and not exactly on the outer surface, it's like this. Okay, now the temporalis will surround this border, and it's present on both sides, both outer and inner side. Alright, so along this border of the coronoid process. So here it will give attachment to the temporalis. Okay, it is inserted into the apex, in the medial surface of the coronoid process. The insertion extends downwards on the anterior border of the ramus. Alright, it extends downwards on the anterior border of the ramus. So now let's come to the lateral pterygoid. Now I told you that there is a pterygoid fossa, the anterior border of the constricted part of the this condyloid process, the neck region in the anterior part, there is a pterygoid fossa. Now here there is attachment of the lateral pterygoid. Okay, here it gives attachment to the lateral pterygoid over here, the lateral pterygoid muscle. Okay, now the lateral surface of the neck over here, it provides attachment to the lateral ligament of the temporomandibular joint. So here is present the lateral ligament of the temporomandibular joint. Alright, now we will discuss about the foramina. Now let's come to the foramina and relations to nerves and vessels of the mandible, both in the outer and in the inner surface. Now the mental foramen. So here was the mental foramen. It transmits the mental nerve and vessels. Okay, the mental foramen transmits the mental nerve and vessels. Now let's go to the mandibular foramen on the inner surface. Now this mandibular foramen, it runs downwards and forwards and forms the mandibular canal. Okay, now the inferior alveolar nerve and vessels enter the mandibular canal. The inferior alveolar nerve and vessels, it runs forwards the canal. Okay, now over here this mylohyoid groove. Now the mylohyoid groove and the structure adjacent to it is, the mylohyoid nerve and vessels lie in the mylohyoid groove. Okay, the mylohyoid nerve and vessels, so it's just present adjacent to the mylohyoid groove, the mylohyoid nerve and vessels. Now the lingual nerve is related to the medial surface of the ramus. Okay, it's related to the medial surface of the ramus in front of the mylohyoid groove over here. Okay, you can see that this is not a well developed mandible actually. It's present, it varies, like it may be present here or here. Alright, now I told you about the lingual nerve. Now let's come to the area above and behind the mandibular foramen. Okay, the area above and behind the mandibular foramen. Now it is related to the inferior alveolar nerve and vessels to the maxillary artery. Okay, now this area actually, here comes the external carotid artery, and it gives branches inside the mandibular foramen as well as to the outside. Okay, now that being said, the masseteric nerve and vessels pass through the mandibular notch. So this was the mandibular notch. So here will be present the masseteric nerve and vessels. Okay, the masseteric nerve and vessels will be just right here. Alright, now the auriculotemporal nerve and superficial temporal artery are related to the medial side of the neck of the mandible. Okay, now the auriculotemporal nerve over here. Alright, auriculotemporal nerve, here will be a superficial temporal artery for this side. Okay, now the auriculotemporal nerve, the superficial temporal artery are related to the medial side of the neck of the mandible. Now the facial artery is palpable on the lower border. It's present just here. Okay, on either side. Here will be the facial nerve and vessels. So the facial artery, you can palpate it if you touch your lower border of the chin. So it's present on the mandible at the anterior inferior angle of the masseter. So here will be the masseter present. Now the anterior inferior angle of the masseter will be present the facial and maxillary, the facial artery basically. Alright. Now one important note is that the facial and maxillary arteries are not accompanied by respective nerves. Okay, now the facial artery, only the facial artery will be present here. Okay, just if ignored if I said nerves also. The facial artery will only be present, and same for the maxillary arteries. They are not accompanied by the respective nerves. The lingual nerve does not get a company of its artery, but the lingual nerve, which is present here, it is also an exception that it's not accompanied by its company of its artery. And for the facial artery and the maxillary artery, they are not accompanied by their respective nerves. So this is one important thing you should remember, that facial and maxillary arteries are not accompanied by their nerves, and the lingual nerve is not accompanied by its artery. What a contrasting thing. So that was pretty much about the foramina and relations to nerve and vessels of the mandible. I hope I covered all the points as in the syllabus of BTC's general anatomy portion. Okay, the head and neck. So I'll see you in a later video. Until next time, bye.